Hi, everybody. Tiffany, founder and executive director of Crafting Change. I'd like to welcome everybody to this afternoon evening's workshop, our Wednesday Sip and Sew with Kathy Lawrence. Kathy, I'm going to turn it over. Hey, how you doing?
Good. Tonight is a sewing class on all things scarves. We've got a scooty, an infinity, and a cowl. And if you stay around till the end, we've got a bonus. We've got a brand new video out that you guys will be the first to see. We've got a premiere tonight. So get your popcorn and your jujubes ready for later. So we've got an ambitious Zoom tonight with all of this going on, but our partner charities are in full go mode right now, getting their winter wear items out to their people, into the hands of the people who need them. And so with cold weather and the snow flying around us, it's time for us to step up our game and get our go mode on too for getting more winter wear. So like I said, we've got 3 scarves tonight, an infinity, a neck warmer, and a scooty. So let's start with the infinity scarf. Now an infinity scarf, all it is just one big double folded piece of fabric that when you wear it, you put it on, then you cross it to an X in front of you, and then you put this over your head too. So you can snuggle up with it. You can make it bundly tight, maybe a little bit looser, but this is all an infinity scarf is. And so if I can get out of this without strangling myself here, I'm going to show you a couple different ways to make this. Not really a couple different ways to make it, but out of a couple different types of fabric. So Tiffany is going to drop a link into the chat. It has an overview sheet that has the links to all 3 of the patterns and the instruction sheets for all 3 of the patterns. So she's going to put that into the chat. And also, if you haven't worked with fleece before, she's also going to put a link into the chat to a video that you might find helpful on tips and tricks for working with fleece. And if you haven't already, you guys mosey on over after class to the YouTube channel and check out our videos, because we've got a real growing library there of a lot of things that will help you. Like I said, the tips and tricks for working with fleece is in there. So for the infinity scarf, really the fabric is the star of this show, because you can use just about anything wintry and warm. And some ideas would be like fleece, flannel. This is kind of like a little lightweight wool blend. You can use minky, some boucle, sweatshirt fleece, anything that you have that would be warm, it's okay to use. Now, I would recommend that you just use the same fabric for both sides. That way it really looks nicer when it's being worn, and it's just easier to make. And what you can do is either cut it out of 45-inch wide fabric or 60-inch wide fabric, because your flannels come in 45, but your fleece and most of your wools come in 60. So let me show you real quick, little visual aid here. What I would recommend is, see if you can pick up on that. Up on the top, this is showing you what happened if you had 45-inch wide fabric. Here's the 45-inch wide fabric laid down flat. You cut that in half right down the middle and cut it 60 inches long, because if it's flannel, it's going to be thinner. It's not going to be real bulky or take up a lot of room. So I would recommend this for flannel prints or solids. And out of one length of 60-inch, you can get 2 scarves from it. Now, if you're going to use fleece or something heavier like the boucle or the minky or sweatshirt type fabric, again, you've had your 60-inch wide fabric here. And if you cut it in half, you'll end up with like a 30 and a 30, a piece 30 inches wide, but then also cut it longer. Cut it about 72, 2 yards of fabric. So out of 2 yards of fabric, you can make 2, because the longer one you'll need the length in order to wrap it around your head, because it's more bulky. Okay, so this is just showing you your cutting suggestions on the 2 different fabrics. And you can see that the difference when you put these on, you'll be able to tell. Okay. Now, there are several ways to sew this together, but I learned something with this tutorial because I learned a new way to make a tube, which, okay, that's a tube. How hard can a tube be, right? But I found a new way to put it together, and I'm going to use one of these 22 by 60s that I already had cut out. This is the other half of my plaid. Okay. So to tell you how to put it together, see, here's my length, and it's kind of hard to see my length, but there's my length. And so I just folded it with the right sides together till it made this little tube here. And I stitched this one side seam using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And somewhere along this side, you leave yourself about a 6-inch opening where you don't stitch it together, because this is where you're going to turn it when you're done. So you've got this sewn all the way down, leaving a 6-inch opening. So then the next thing that you do is you put your arm down in the sleeve. La-di-da-di-da. And get all the way down and go all the way down to the other end. And you grab this and you come pull it through inside this tube, but just come up to where you match the other raw edge. You're not going to turn it all the way out, but what you're going to do is you're going to pull it up here so it matches this other raw edge. And you see you've got the right side and the right side here. You're going to put those together and then either pin or clip that tube. Get my clippies. Pin or clip these two right sides together all the way around. So now you're working on a circle. You're working in a circle up here. So we want to pin these two together, and it's still, I haven't turned anything right side out. I've just got those two raw edges that match. And I don't know, maybe you guys are ahead of me and already know how this turns out, but honestly, this is the first time I've seen it done like this, and I was really impressed. And so what you do is, I'm going to see if you can see me down here. I'm going to jump down here and I'm going to sew this tube together around the top. So you get your free arm out. That doesn't take long at all. Get rid of your threads.
Kathy, one
Now,
question is, how are you making sure it's not twisted before you sewed it?
because you just pulled it straight through. You didn't pull it all the way out. You just took it and pulled it up. See, you put your arm all the way through and you grab that bottom and you brought it back in and you just match up your seams. So you're not twisting as you're pulling it. You're just bringing it back through and just matched up that seam. So yes, there's a possibility that you could twist that inside one around, but you just want to feel as you come back to make sure that you're not doing that. Okay. And now that I've got that tube sewn, all I need to do is to go back and find that little opening that I left open and then pull it to the outside. And you still have, there's your circle. I don't know why I was so amazed with this. I suppose everybody knows how to do this but me. But I thought that was just really slick. How that was just came out to be a circle. And here's my back seam that I just sewed. There's that seam. And now the only thing I have to do is take this to the ironing board and press it out. And the hardest part is going to be finding that little spot that I left open. And all I would do with that is turn those edges underneath and clip that. And then as I top stitched, I would just top stitch that shut. And that's all there is to it. I top stitch both of these edges shut. And then you've got, after you're done top stitching, you've got your scarf, your infinity scarf. That's it. This is it. That's all there is to it. So when you see your flannel, snuggly flannel on sale for like ridiculous low prices, or if you're sitting on a stack of snuggly flannel, this is what you need to do on a Saturday. Just sit and do these, because these are just so easy, so cute. Now, I wanted to show you the difference in the bulkiness. This is the one that I had made out of the wool blends. And see, I can feel it's got a bigger hand. And you can see on me how it's hanging down further, because I did this in the longer length, like we saw on the little whiteboard. But when I twist it and turn it, it's just a nice snuggly length. It's not anything too choking or anything too droopy. It's just got a nice length to it. So this is what I would recommend if you're making these for moderate winter, like our Florida groups, or some places they don't have severe cold. Go with your flannel. Go with your nice snuggly flannel. These are nice and warm, nice and simple. They fold up easy. They mail easy. But if you're going with somebody in North Dakota, South Dakota, or someplace where they've got brutal winters, go ahead and do a fleece or a wool blend, something like that. So that's all we've got. That's all there is to the infinity. Now I'm going to change gears here and get set up for the next one. The next one, I just want to call it a mini me infinity. Okay, the next is our neck gaiters. Well, I don't like to use, Tiffany and I don't like to use the name neck gaiter, because we all know that the neck gaiters that they use to try to get by as face masks, they don't work. They're not recommended for any type of protection for anything. But what I'm talking about is a little neck gaiter that they wear just around their neck. And this is a little size for a youth. And I've done this size for the adults. So this is just like your infinity scarf, but it's a little mini me infinity scarf. Now, on this project, we need to be a lot more pickier on the fabric that we're using, because this depends on the stretch to get this over your head and to not suffocate you when you're wearing it. So you have to be careful and pick out a stretchy fleece. And I want to show you something. These are 2 neck gaiters I made. I cut them out the same size, sewed them up the same way, except the red was a nice lighter weight, so it had more stretch to it. But this is a thicker one. You're going to get a kick out of this. You ready? Here I go. Okay, somebody call 911. I'm like that little Muggles or whoever it is on the Popeye commercial, Popeye cartoon. This is really tight on me, and I know I'm a larger woman, but I can't imagine any man getting into this or wanting this around his throat for oh, any length of time. So that's why it's so important when you are picking out your fabric to be very, very careful and have the appropriate lightweight that you can stretch and come around your neck. Now I can get my glasses on. I feel like I'm been dragged through a bush backwards. Okay, so we're recommending anti-pill bank robbers, stick them up. I don't know. I don't think I could even talk. That could cut off my oxygen. I don't think I'd make it to the bank. But see, isn't that funny? Because they're both the exact same size, except one stretches and the other one is just not my deal. I would label that as a youth, but not for an adult. So like I said, we're recommending the anti-pill stretchy fleece for that. Even Luxe is just too heavy and it doesn't stretch enough. It's too thick. So you can pick out warm weather fabrics, but just remember me suffocating in that dark gray thing, that it really does depend that you can stretch it. Okay. Now, one thing you might note when you're looking for the tutorial and the sewing instructions for this, there's a little video that shows you how to do it. But on the video, they give the original measurements of cutting a piece of fleece 20 by 20. And I don't recommend to do that. So I've changed the cutting dimensions to 21 wide, which is going to be across, and 19 high, so it's not as thick on the neck. So please use our cutting dimensions that's on the overview sheet, 21 wide by 19 high, which would be good for an average adult. And if you're going to be making them for our partner charities that work a lot in the streets and missions and with the homeless, go ahead and do some that are even wider, like a 22 by 20 or a 23 by 20, because I think Tiffany has said that most of them who are in the homeless and being helped by these missions, a lot of them are adult men and larger. So we don't want to strangle them either. So the construction on this now is going to be the same as we did for the infinity scarf, except it's going to be a little mini me. So remember, it's vital that you cut this out with the stretch of the material going around your neck. So the first thing you do is take this and you fold it up. You've got, this is what's going around your neck. So this is your 21, 22, or 23, however you cut it. And then you stitch this together and you're leaving an opening here on the side. And this is done the same way as the infinity scarf. When you got to that point, you just stick your arm down inside of here. Okay, and you grab the other end and maybe just hold it here in the middle, and you're just pulling it back just enough that you're going to match these back seams. So you just match the seams on these, the back seams, without twisting, and do the same thing as you did on the infinity scarf. You just go ahead and you want to stitch around this back seam, which is going to be in the round. And I'm going to pop down and see if I can do that real quick on the machine here for you. Maybe you can see something there. And I like these projects on the scarves because they're really forgiving as to seam allowances. If you want to use a 1/4 inch, if you want to use 3/8, if you want to use a half. They really are pretty forgiving that you can do that. So again, this is just like what we did in our infinity scarf. We've got the ends matched up. We've sewn it in a circular, and now all we got to do is go back and find where that was for turning. And the spot that I left opening for turning is here. So I'm just going to grab the scarf and turn it right side out. And abracadabra. I don't know why I'm so thrilled about that, but I just think that is just really clever. And there you've got your neck warmer. Again, take your little raw edges here. This is where we turned it. You can turn those under, you clip that, and then just catch that as you're top stitching around the tube. So there's our little mini me, the neck scarf. Now our last project that I'm going to show tonight, besides the video, is this is a pretty ambitious project, but oh man, if you're outside in a snowstorm, I'm telling you, this is what you want. This is our scooty. A scooty is a scarf and a hoodie put together. So it's got a hoodie and then it's got an attached scarf with it. And this is just really warm. Let me get the camera up just a little bit. That's better. Just really nice and warm, snuggly. This one I made with a piece of a knit boucle that I've had it for a couple of years, really. And then the inside is a flannel fleece. It's a fleece, a little lightweight fleece. And for this project, and I tell you guys, I can't thank Tina enough because she helps out so much with testing patterns for me. I looked and looked and looked and looked at patterns for this, and the patterns that I found online that made any sense that I could present to you and feel good about it, they were calling for 8, 9, 10 sheets of paper to print out and to put together like a big old roadmap. And I'm like, we're not going to do that. So I drafted my own pattern, and this the links to the 4 sheets are going to be on that overview sheet that Tiffany's put in the chat. And what this is just 4 panels, and they're labeled panel 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when you get them, just print each one out and see, here's the panel 1. Panel 1 goes to panel 2. You just line them up, tape them together, and then 3 goes on to the lower bottom, and 4. So here's 3 and 4. Okay. And I want to make a note that on panel 4, when you get these 4 pieces together, they're going to be the hood. Okay. And I'm not going to make you print like another 6 sheets to do the scarf because that's silly. You guys can figure this out. But what you're going to do is, you see, this is the beginning of the scarf here and here. And this note here says, extend this 31 inches from this dotted line. And that's your scarf. Okay. And don't make the mistake that I made the first time. I took it 31 inches from here instead of back here where this dotted line is. And mine was really too long. So just add your length from this dotted line and go straight out. And when you get them, the 4 of them taped together, you're going to have something that looks like this. Okay, this is your hood coming down to your scarf, and then this goes out this way. Okay, now I want to show you how to lay these out. This is a picture I took when I laid them out on the floor. This pink fabric is just a piece of 60-inch wide fleece that was just opened up and laid on the floor. And then these plaid are the 2 hood pieces. So this is a 60 inches wide, but it's folded. So it's 30 from here to here. So this is actual double thickness. So I would have enough to make a whole hoodie out of pink using these two pattern pieces. Plus, if you make one without the optional pocket, that's where I put these little mitten layouts. I actually had room out of this 60-inch wide fleece to make one complete scooty and two pairs of mittens in between. So really, you're not wasting any material because mittens, easy, slide them in there, get them to wherever they can go. Or if you're making the little scarves that have the little circles like we did in the gift zoom, you've got a lot of room here too. But this tape measure is just showing you that I measured out how long it took, and out of 59 inches, which is 1 2/3 yards of 60-inch wide material, you can cut out one complete scooty plus two pairs of mittens. Now, if you are going to use the pockets on the scooty, then just go ahead and cut your pockets out here in the middle and just maybe get one pair of gloves out. But you can get the pockets, which are 9x9s, cut out of here in the middle. Okay, so this is for 60-inch wide fabric. Now, if you're using 45-inch wide material, like you happen to get a narrower fleece, or if you're going to use flannel, then if you lay it out this way, now stay with me, if you lay it out this way, your 45-inch fabric on the fold is not going to be wide enough to get this fully across. But I'll tell you what you can do, and it won't hurt anything. Come back to your pattern and take it and just put a little crease in it, so it's just not quite as long in the hood. It'll be fine, because that's what I did with the blue one I'm going to show you at the end here. So this is full size, but if you are getting to where you can't fit this on the width of your fabric, just take a little crease in it and fold it down and take some of the height out of the hood to make it fit. Okay. So, goodness sakes, where am I? I was just getting all excited showing you that hood there. I got to figure out, I know there's something else I wanted to tell you about this one. Oh, good materials for this. We already went over it. Lightweight Berber, minky, wool, wool blends, flannel, fleece. A word of caution though, if it was me, I would recommend that if you're using two different materials on here, to try to balance out the weight so it's not extremely heavy. Like, I don't think I would use two heavy pieces of wool, because that would just be like just overkill. So the one that I did that I really, really like is I made it from polar fleece on the outside, but the inside was a flannel print. And it has just a nice lightweight feel to it, and it feels good and it wears good. So try to combine your materials so they're not overly bulky or overly hard to handle or sew. So this one is simple to sew. There is a tutorial with pictures that you can follow. But what I wanted to do was to show you how to put these optional pockets on, which I think are just really cool. One way that you can do it is when you're done with your tails of your scarf, you can just make a pocket and sew it on top down at the end. But as you can see, this pocket is sewn right into the seams, so it doesn't look like it's an afterthought. It's sewn right into the seams. And I made it double material. I did the flannel and the fleece. So this pocket is really warm. You can probably get by with using one piece of material, but it just feels so good with the flannel and the fleece. So I wanted to show you how to do that one. Let me grab my other stack over here. So the first thing you do is you cut two pieces, 9x9s. You cut two out of the fleece and two out of the flannel. Where'd the other one go? Oh, he's already sewn on. And then you take them and you put them right sides together, stitch your seam, come back out, and you're only going to be stitching one seam because this is going to be the end of your top stitch pocket. Come back and top stitch that and leave these three sides open. And once you get them kind of matched up to where they need to be, just put a clip in them to hold them together. Just put a clip in them to hold them together. And then you're just going to set it on the top side of your tail. So here is the outside of my scooty. There's the fleece. And we're coming down here, coming down to the end. And here's my tail. And all I do is just set that pocket on top of it. This is my finished stitched edge that I just top stitched. And this is raw edge, and raw edge. We're just laying it right on top and basting it in place. You can see where I basted it around. This is the wrong side, but I basted it around, and mine happened to be a little bit wider, which was okay, because now what I can do is come back and trim off this excess of that pocket, or you can leave it on while you're stitching. And so this pocket is now, you'll treat this as one with this fabric of the scarf portion of the scooty. And so when you've got your lining, this isn't hard, you just need a bigger spot to lay it out. Here's my lining. You notice I've just sewn the back of this hood seam together, that back seam. That's all I've sewn together. And oh, wanted to show you too, this was cut out of 45-inch fabric. So I did take an inch or two out of the length of that pattern. Like I just showed you, I just folded it over, made this a little bit shorter instead of longer, and it didn't affect the wear of it at all. So I've got lining, got the outside, and it's going to be hard to show you, but you all know what happens next. The thing that happens next is you put them right sides together and you match up your seams and you sew the right sides together, the lining and the outside fabric. It's hard to do standing up. Usually I got it laid out on a table. Okay. And when we come down to the bottom of the scarf, what's going to happen is that you have the right side of the lining. It's going to go against the right side of the outside. Here's our pocket. Just stack one on top of the other, pin it down. And you know what I discovered, what the neat thing was about working with flannel and fleece? The cool thing about working with flannel and fleece is that when you're ready to stitch them together and you've got them right sides together, put this flannel side down on your sewing machine and then stitch, and it just walks right through because your presser feet is grabbing at the flannel, and you'll have a lot better traction. You won't have a lot of the sliding like you do when the presser feet are trying to grab onto the fleece. So that's a bonus. Put this, the flannel down, stitch it around the outside. And when you do, you'll be able to follow the lines that you top stitched, so you know that you're catching all the layers together. Okay. And so this is just like any of our other projects when we have two layers. You put the right sides together, and somewhere along one of the long seams, you're going to leave a spot open for turning. So you leave yourself a spot big enough to get your hand in, because this is a big project. You really got to get in there and turn it. So leave it about a 6-inch gap somewhere, but then you stitch all the way around it, leave a 6-inch gap, reach in there, pull it back out, fiddle with it, roll your seams with your fingers so you can get the edges right to the very edge, get the seams right to the edge, clip it all the way around, and then top stitch it. And you're done. None of these projects are hard, and they're so forgiving that if your seam is a 1/2 inch instead of 3/8, or if your measurements here are maybe 2 inches shorter so you can get it onto 45-inch fabric, it's fine. It's really not a problem. And I wanted to show you real quick why I really like these heavy scarves. I realize that they're a bigger and bulkier project, and they do take more fabric than usual. So it's going to be a little bit more for your material and for shipping. But oh, if you are someone living out in the streets that is in a harsher climate and you need something to cuddle up with, this is it. Now, a couple of things that I liked about this is I made this so it was a little bit longer back here. Okay, so this will come either underneath your jacket or on top of your jacket, so to keep the cold air from coming up underneath your neck. And I made this into a gentle curve here, so it was easier if they wanted to wrap this around their throat. Instead of having it be the sharp little corner, I curved that corner. But the coolest thing is, okay, now here, I can't hear you, but I can see you. And I've got a pocket to stick my cold little hands on. If I want to come like this or whatever I want to do, I love the pockets. Okay, so there you got it. I don't think I forgot too much tonight, but I had a lot to go over. So thank you for joining us. Now I'm not done yet. I want to see if you guys have any questions, or did Tiffany take care of them, or do we have any questions on any of the 3 scarves?
There was one question on if for the neck gaiter, if the Blizzard brand fleece would actually be okay for that or not.
Well, that's a good question. I know we've always preached about, we really like to stay with the anti-pillar better. And so I think this just might be a judgment call as to how bad do we need to get these, and how bad do we need to get these out. If it's somebody who's on the streets that probably don't have access to washing them very often anyway, and so that, I don't know, what do you say? What do you think, Tiffany? I'm kind of on the fence.
Thick enough and warm enough?
If it's thick enough and warm enough, yeah.
Yeah. And the issue is it just didn't hold up to the wash repeatedly.
Right, that was it. The problem with the Blizzard is that after we made something and washed it and used it for a little while, it pills up and it gets flimsy.
Okay.
And so you got me on that one. I personally, I kind of stay away from it because for me, and I know this is just my opinion, I feel that my money and my time and my effort and my shipping, it's all worth something. So if I'm going to make something and to give it away to somebody who really needs it, I'm okay myself with just spending a little bit more and using a little bit better quality fabric, so I've got something nice. But I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, and so I'm just kind of on the fence on this. If this was going someplace like where they said they wanted legacy pieces or multi-generational pieces, then I would say absolutely no Blizzard.
Yeah,
because it just would not hold up.
I think my executive decision would be if you already have a stash of it and you're sending it to our street partners, that it's okay. I would not encourage anyone to be going out and buying it, knowing what we now know about it.
That's a very good answer to that. That's kind of where I was headed, but I know that we had talked so long about.
Just wait for
Try
the
not-
to go on sale.
Right.
Yeah. Vicky's got a question.
Yes, I've never heard of knit blue clay. What is that? It sounds very fancy.
It's just a fancy name for fuzzy, bubbly fabric. It's, you know how your carpet has loops in it?
Okay.
Your carpet, a boucle, it would either have loops in it or maybe little balls or tufts in it. It's more in the finish of the material, and that's what this is. If you could see it, it's got tiny. It's like a little tiny little carpet. It's got the little, yeah. But like I said, most of these projects for your knits, if you stay with a good knit, and this just happened to be one piece that I had, but this is a boucle that has, at least we called it blue clay. You're right, it sounds fancy, but it's just a word for something that has some texture or some bubbly to it or some loopy to it.
And then on the flannel from Joann's, is there different levels of flannel? All flannels are okay? Is
The Joann's flannel, if you want more information on that further than what I'm saying, I have some more info on that video, the tips and tricks for working with fleece. I haven't really had too much wrong with Joann's flannel. Even the ones that go on sale for like the real inexpensive price when they have it like 60% off, that's what this blue is. And I wash everything before I make it because I want to make sure that if it shrinks or there's something wrong with it, I want to know before I put it into a project. So this is just your regular snuggly flannel from Joann's, and I haven't had any trouble with it.
okay, that's it for class, everybody. Thank you very, very, very much. Thanks, Kathy. Amazing time. Learned a lot. Very excited. All the projects are up on the website listed in the various charities looking. And don't forget about the impact page, which tells you each type of item and which charities want that type of item. That's a great cheat sheet to look at. If you're looking at scarves, it'll tell you which charity was looking for scarves. So that's your cheat sheet, the impact page. So don't forget to utilize that. So thanks, everybody.